Hello, and welcome to the latest in the series of podcasts from Neurodiversity in Business. My name's Dan Harris. I'm the founder and CEO of Neurodiversity in Business. And I'm really delighted today to be joined by someone who's just a real expert on this topic, and I'm sure will deliver some real interesting insight to our membership and to the audience. So I'll let Georgina introduce herself because she'll do a far better job than I will. Georgina, why don't you say hello?
Hi Dan, thanks very much. So my name's Georgie. I work in an occupational psychology consultancy and we specialise in neurodiversity in the workplace. And my focus has been in this area for the last 3 years since discovering I have ADHD and dyslexia.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Georgie. And so, as you know from these podcasts, from looking at them on LinkedIn and YouTube, this is really just designed to be informative for our audience, which is mainly the corporate world, but then also those neurodivergent employees and potential employees, those people who have been excluded from the workforce. And, you know, really interested to understand a bit more initially. Tell me about your diagnosis journey then. So when did this all transpire in terms of your realization? How did you inform people? And then how did that then translate into the corporate world?
Okay, cool. So to be honest, I was diagnosed with dyslexia at university. And that was the start of my journey because I really struggled in school. I found my parents had to reteach me all the syllabuses in English, maths and science, as many other people do. The area where I flourished in was actually the arts sector.
Okay.
That's where I specialised at university. But obviously in relation to my dyslexia, I couldn't actually articulate what I was thinking, and I couldn't put it onto paper. Sorry, not articulate, I couldn't put it on paper. So essentially I was failing my degree. So that diagnosis literally changed my life at that point. I moved into the workplace after passing my degree, and my mother actually told me not to tell anyone I was dyslexic. And actually at the time, they mentioned to me, you might have ADD. And I went to the GP and they said, ADD doesn't exist in adults, so don't even think about it. But actually, when I went into the workplace and didn't disclose, it held me back. It held back massively. And in relation to my mental health, suffered my ability to progress in my career. It stopped in relation to doing exams. I was doing a graduate scheme initially. I wasn't able to do the exams that I needed to do in relation to progress in the graduate scheme. And actually, I moved into the tech sector just before I joined my last company, Lexic. And honestly, I'd been there for 3 years. It was fast-moving business, and they didn't understand the way my brain operated and how it worked. And actually, my CEO at the time said some really damaging things to me. And in regards to that, it just
previous to Lexic, just to clarify.
Previous to Lexic, clarify. It said things like you're really good at simple sales. And, you know, for somebody who's dyslexic, being diagnosed or being told you're good at something simple is horrific. Oh, you speak too quickly. Because I was masking, I was hiding who I really was because they didn't know who I was essentially. And I got to a point where actually I met Lexic at an event. It was Neurodiversity. It was on a banner. I'd never heard of the word before. And I literally walked up to them and said, that is me. I said, I'm a salesperson. I love what I do, but I'm in the wrong business. And joining Lexic literally changed my life because they were open to who I was. I could tell them I was neurodivergent and I wasn't ashamed anymore. And having that off my shoulders, it was an incredible feeling.
Well, gosh, I don't mean to interrupt you because you're in mid-flow, but I'm just going to reflect on something, which is, you know, you talked about those, that kind of perception or the feedback you got from previous employer, and I'll then reflect on some strengths, right? Because I remember the first time I met you, which was at a conference, and I must have spoken to 100 people that day at the conference, and you're the person I remember speaking to when it came to the end of the day, because within 5 minutes of us speaking, you had got out of me, you know, my life story, my background. I was telling you about my route around diagnosis myself on neurodivergency, and I just went away from that conversation and thought, what a great communicator, and also someone who was very empathetic and able to get out of you. And I just thought, gosh, those are such great skills to have in the corporate world. So I'm just I'm pleased that you've gone on that kind of progression, and that feedback you got way back when, I just don't think it was relevant.
No, and I couldn't agree more. And I think it said the reason with you, Dan, obviously you're interesting yourself and I'm interested. And what my boss has always said to me is you're the best relationship manager I've ever met.
Yeah.
You're the best.
That's better expression of what I just said. Relationship manager. Yeah.
That is my skill set. I do have ADHD. So I was diagnosed with ADHD actually last year, and because I was having major challenges in my home life. And so I just kind of, I think since finding out, I've just literally kind of really embraced it. And in relation to my ability to build relationships, I speak to organizations, FTSE 100s, major organizations in the tech industry. I speak to CEOs, and before I used to be scared. Now I don't care who I speak to. I go into a conversation, I'm myself, people feel comfortable, they share their experience. What you did with me, you were so open with me. They do the same for me as well. And I think that feeling for me has just absolutely smashed my confidence. And I feel, yeah, I think I'm feeling sky high at the moment. And I couldn't be happier either. And I think that's where I was going through CBT therapy, etc. And now I have been in an organisation which has let me be myself. It's incredible. But also the adjustments as well. Don't forget, sometimes you do need adjustments. So let's not forget that, because I have had that. I have had coaching, I've had therapy, etc. So that's
right. So we'll come to that shortly. What I'd like to go back to briefly, though, is just tell us about the ADHD, first of all, because it's a very broad spectrum, even within ADHD, and there's different presentations of that. So tell us how that presents in yourself, if you don't mind being personal. And then second of all, let's go back to that kind of strengths point of view. So how has that, helped you in terms of those excellence around client relationship management?
Okay, so in relation to my ADHD, I'm inattentive and attentive, and it's moderate, so it's in between. I got advised to medicate, but I didn't want to, so I meditate, as they say, instead. So gym, to keep me sane. In regards to how it impacts me, my brain is constantly on the go. I speak quite quickly. I always want to be active, so I'm literally doing as many activities as possible because I love to learn new things and new skills. In relation to it, it's like having a motor inside you. As soon as it's in relation to work, you can either, I guess some of the negatives sometimes is that you can be a slow starter, but actually what the positives are, you can hyper focus. You can absolutely, in relation to the way your brain works, you can do lots of different things at lots of different times. So you can jump around and adapt. So in relation to the communication piece, it's a really funny one. It feels very natural to have. I feel so comfortable with people. And I guess because I'm ADHD, I'm super direct. So I will ask the questions that no one else will ask. But I will share. I'm an oversharer, so I'll share information with you, which will make you feel comfortable sharing with me. So it's that natural kind of bonding moment. I think it's just about being an open human being. And just, I guess the passion comes across. I love what we do in relation to neurodiversity. And I think in regards to numbers, they say it's 1 in 7, but actually it's more like probably like 25% of the population. So it's huge, huge numbers. And I think that number's growing. As people are more aware of it, there's more understanding around neurodiversity. More people realise they've got neurodiversity traits as well. So yeah, I'm probably going off tangent as I do.
No, that's good. That's good, and it explains a bit more about how that the neurodivergence leads to your character traits and also your behaviour, but also the strengths that you demonstrate in the corporate world. And that's not just my feedback. That's what I've heard also from people in your team, right? So I'm glad I'm validated there. Tell me about, you mentioned earlier the point around adjustments, because those it's an unknown concept, isn't it? Because it's a deeply personal thing. It's something that probably you don't necessarily talk about in the workplace. But what were those few things that businesses had done for you which allowed you to then, one, deliver your authentic self, but two, really kind of thrive rather than just survive?
I think one of the key things is my manager adjusted the way she managed me. I like to have peer-to-peer management. So one of the key things about being ADHD is that you're hyper aware, but also you're hypercritical. So you criticize yourself so much. So if you've got a critical kind of parent management style, it doesn't work for me. So my manager changed that to a peer-to-peer, and that worked amazingly. I got noise cancelling headphones. I'm overstimulated in relation to noise and smells as well. So that just kind of keeps me a little bit more chilled. It helps me focus. And I utilize them all the time now, and that really has made a difference in my life. In relation to adjustments at work, in regards to kind of I had coaching. So that was not an adjustment, but my coach helped me to kind of work more closely in the diary management. And I think my situation challenges are is around emails, diaries. I always double book stuff, which is terrible. But I think it's a situation of I can't see ahead into the future. I can't plan ahead. I can only do the here and now. So
Right.
she's helped me with that. And my teammates are absolutely incredible. I'm not good on admin. Admin is horrific for me. I find it really challenging, and process. So they've adapted their approach to me and been super kind of understanding. They've helped me with it. I used to have hourly sessions with my colleague. We do admin sessions together, because I find it really difficult to look at two screens. So I'd ask her for information, and she'd provide it for me. So it's adjustments in the way I'm working, but it's just having people that are understanding.
Got it.
I think they're the key ones. I think so.
So I've got a couple of reflections on those, if I may. Number one is that what I'm hearing from the corporate membership of Neurodiversity in Business is that there's sometimes some nervousness around adjustments, reasonable adjustments. Are they going to be expensive? Are they going to be complicated? Are they going to require reworking of HR processes? Everything you've just told me about seems pretty easy to implement, not costly, but disproportionately impactful in terms of getting the most out of you as an employee.
100%. I got things like the tomato timer. That's a free app on your phone, helps you concentrate for 20 minutes at a time. Then you have 10-minute gaps. In relation to my noise cancelling headphones, they were 40 quid. Been a massive change. So that's not really expensive. In relation to the way my colleagues work, they're educated, they're understanding. Obviously, they're psychologists specialised in neurodiversity in the workplace, so they know. But in regards to the way it works for me, I'm so much more productive. So in relation to selling and growing the business, that's exponential in comparison, because they help in the other areas. And in regards to my manager, she's educated herself and she's learnt more, and that has really enabled her to kind of get the most out of me. So education is not expensive. You can do it yourself. You can read about it yourself. But I think the key thing is just the first step is actually being open to neurodiversity, allowing people to be open when they join your company, because it's the weight off your shoulders straight away. And it just enables you to share, actually, when I'm having challenges, it's not an embarrassment. This is my weaknesses. This is my strengths. I know it. And actually, I'm going to utilize different people to help me. But you've got things like Dragon software, etc., and they're not that expensive, especially if you buy it on a much larger license as well, numbers. It's much, there's loads of things. So yeah, it's not too expensive, but mainly education is the key.
Right. Well, I've learned a lot, Georgie, and I did in our previous meetings as well. But I think this is a really powerful message for both corporates to understand, actually, we need to get this right because we can really deliver value from our employees. And then also there's a great message here, which is for the kind of the up and coming people joining the workforce, that actually, there's a role model here, another role model, neurodivergent role model, that actually is doing great stuff in the corporate world. And, you're helping break down barriers for other people, aren't you?
Yeah, I think the key thing is to remember is that often mental health challenges are often secondary to unsupported neurodiversity, and the mental health challenges, they take over the whole of your life, not just your work life, the whole of it, and they debilitate you. So actually, if you just focus on the primary, which is the neurodiversity, like that's happened with me, my life has completely changed, and I'm flourishing, and I'm the happiest I could have ever been. So I'm forever grateful to working in an organisation which has completely kind of it's allowed me to be me and to flourish. So yeah, hopefully that helps other people. But thanks, Dan. It's been awesome talking to you as well.
Well, look, I won't even summarise from there because you said it a lot better than I would have done. So I'm going to conclude there and just say that, the corporate world is listening, and I'm really pleased with the progress that we're all making on this journey. So thank you, Georgie, for being so generous with your time. And also thank you for the membership of NiB and also others who have been listening in today attentively. We'll look forward to welcoming you in a future session. So goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. See you later.